Hey everyone, welcome back to Homegrown Passion. I'm Katie, and today we are in the kitchen because I harvested 5 pounds of green beans and about 6 pounds of spinach that I want to freeze and put up. But the first thing I want to do before I get into that is to make some beef tallow. So stay tuned. So if you guys have seen any of my past videos, you know that we raise beef cattle, Herefords, and I've been raising them for about 40 years, but the past 25 years we've been doing grass-fed. And I want to tell you the difference between tallow and lard, which I didn't know 40 years ago. Tallow is made from beef fat, specifically suet, and lard is made from pig fat. So there's a difference between tallow and lard. So today I'm going to show you how I make beef tallow because I use it for cooking, making soap, hand cream, and once in a while I make a candle. Now the fat, like I mentioned before, is the suet that I use, and that's the fat that's around the kidney and the organs, and that's the most pure fat that you can get from the animal. Our butcher will go ahead and take the suet for me and put it in nice 5-pound packages and vacuum pack it so I can make it at my convenience. So for those of you that don't raise your own cattle, you can get this from your local butcher. Just when you call them up, make sure you say that you want the suet, not the fat. One of the benefits that I like about tallow is once it's rendered, it is shelf stable. And also, if you render it at a low temperature, it preserves all the antioxidants. So that's why when I do my rendering, I use my crock pot slow cooker. I don't do it on top of the stove because it gets too hot and boil and you lose all your antioxidants. So talking about antioxidants, tallow is pure saturated fats. It doesn't have any carbs or protein in it, and it has vitamins A, D, B12, and E. So come on, let's go ahead and make some tallow. So today I'm only going to do a 5-pound batch. So I'm going to use my grinder that attaches to my KitchenAid mixer. I do have a bigger grinder in the back that you can put big chunks in, but since this one is a little bit smaller, I'm going to have to take the suet and put it into strips so it fits down here really nice. So let me get started with that. Okay, let me get my package open. So this was frozen. I frosted it and it's still all nice and stuck together. There we go. So what I like to do is just take a piece and carefully cut it into strips to go through the grinder. And working with the fat, it's very, very slippery. And I know some people just cut it in chunks and put it in the slow cooker, but I found if I grind it, you have more surface area and you're able to get a lot more tallow. So let me get this guy going here. This little mixer does a really nice job grinding for me. Okay, well, I'm going to keep cutting this up, and then we will go ahead and I'll show you my next step of when I put it in the slow cooker. Now, don't worry about getting all the little pieces of meat out, because once it renders down, you're able to pull those pieces out. So the rendering method that I use is wet rendering. It's where you put all your ground up suet into a slow cooker crock pot, and then you go ahead and put water in and some salt. And that helps get all the impurities out of the fat. And since you're trying to get all the impurities out, I use sea salt. And so with my 5 pounds of suet, it's 2 tablespoons of sea salt and 4 cups of water. And I don't use tap water, I use distilled water. So I have my own distiller I keep on my counter, because I love making my tea with distilled water and it just tastes so much better. So there's no impurities in the water. You should see that distiller. After I run like 2 or 3 of these pots through there, oh my gosh, you open it up and it's all gross. You got all this calcium and buildup and like yellowy gray stuff. So I actually have to pour vinegar in there, let it sit for a few minutes so I can wipe all the impurities out and start a new batch. So let's go ahead and get everything into the crock pot. So I'm just going to put the salt around because it'll all mix up, because this will really cook down fast. So there's the salt. And let me measure out my 4 cups of water. Okay, let's see. There's 2. The next 2. Okay. My lid on. Plug it in and put it on low. Like I said before, you don't want to render it on high because you want to keep all your antioxidants. So probably about 20 minutes, it's going to start to cook down, and I'll show you what it looks like. So while the batch I just made is rendering, I thought I'd show you the batch I made last night. Again, I did 5 pounds of suet, let it sit overnight, and of course all the fat comes up to the top and the water's on the bottom. And let me get it out of the bowl here. Kind of tricky. There we go. Got a hold of it. You can see on the bottom some of the impurities. See the brown marks? Go ahead, set it down. And so what I'm going to do is take a knife and scrape these impurities off, because I'm going to double render some of this tallow. Some of it's going to be used for soap and some of it for skincare. So those ones I double render to make sure I get every impurity out. The other part of it I'm going to use for cooking. So here are all the impurities. It was nice clear water, and you can see how brown and yucky it is. Okay, let's get some of the impurities scraped off. You don't have to push very hard because it is soft. It doesn't take too much effort. Take them all off. Yeah, it's a little bit right there. Otherwise, this looks pretty good. This is one of my cleaner ones I've done. Okay, that looks good. So half of my block here I'm going to use for cooking, and the other half I'm going to use for soap and my hand moisturizer. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half. And when the batch is done in the crock pot, I'll go ahead and do the part for the soap and the hand soap again, render it again, get really nice and clean. And the other part I'm going to put in the refrigerator, and then I'm going to heat it up and can it so I can use it later for cooking. Look how nice and white that is. Well, it's the next day, and the suet is totally rendered. It is really nice and clear. And at the bottom, there's little pieces. And I know in pork they call it cracklings. I'm not sure exactly what it's called in beef. But I know I save the little pieces and I feed them to my dog. I give him about a teaspoon and a tablespoon every night on top of his food, and he just loves it. So my next step I need to do is strain the rendering, and I have a fine mesh strainer, and I put cheesecloth on top of it, and I strain it into my metal bowl. So I have my crock pot on keep warm. I did the rendering on the low setting, but since it's tallow now, and if I let it get cooled down, it would solidify immediately because it cools down so fast. So I have it on keep warm, so I can go ahead and strain it through my cheesecloth and my mesh strainer. So all I do is ladle it into the strainer, little by little. You can see the little cracked ones. And I'm going to go ahead and get this all strained, and I'll show you the end product. Okay, that's the end of it out of the crock pot. Let me get all the good tallow out of the leftovers here. I'll go ahead and put these away for the dog. And you probably noticed I used 2 bowls. I was going to put it in my one big bowl, but I don't have enough room in my refrigerator, so I thought 2 smaller bowls would be a lot better, because I got to let it separate. Because like I said, the water method, the wet method that we do the rendering, all the water is going to be at the bottom, and it's going to pull out all the impurities, and all the fresh tallow is going to be on the top. So my plan is to take half of what I processed between yesterday and today and make some tallow soap and some tallow body lotion. And I may even put a few scents into the soap and body lotions, because I do like the peppermint and the woodland scents. It makes it feel nice and homey. So if that's something you guys want to see me do, let me know. Place a comment down below, and I'll go ahead and get a video out, because I love working in my kitchen. It's one of the pastimes, my hobbies. So like always, please leave me questions, comments, and suggestions down below, and we'll see you guys next video.